Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the weekly series where I get to chat with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Well, alrighty then. So, who is the guest on this week's episode, I hear you all ask? Well, why don't we all find out? Sit yourselves down, put your feet up, make yourselves comfortable, and let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Okie dokie then. So once again, we are treated to another fantastic collection. We've got some G.I. Joe classifieds. We've got some Star Wars Black Series. We've got some Lego, some Transformers, and even some Funko Pops. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the channel for the first time, Papa Gord. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Like I was saying off camera, I've had to take a heat pack off because I slept awkwardly last night, so I'm a bit rigid in the old neck department there. So yeah, but other than that, all good. But then that's nothing compared to what happened to you the other day. You want to enlighten the audience of your little mishap?
Oh, well, just quickly, I am a caretaker for a school board, for a public school board, and so over the Christmas break, I was in doing my extra cleaning, getting the school ready for the kids to come back, and part of the boys' bathroom ceiling decided it was time to let go and onto
Wow.
my melon. So I've been kind of fighting through some symptoms for about 6 or 7 weeks now. I'm a couple of weeks away from being back to work full time, which will be really nice. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, that's yeah, horrendous. I mean, I'm guessing you weren't on your own when that happened.
Actually, the head caretaker was there. It was just the two of us in the building, and he was just kind of chilling out playing his computer games. And I'm like,
Oh,
covered in ceiling dust and whatever, and
oh
he looked
man.
more annoyed that I had to go and disturb his video gaming rather than
Oh.
to him come and check out the deficiencies of the building. But different strokes, right? So
Well, absolutely, absolutely. As long as you're on the road to recovery, you seem to be okay. So,
not bad,
I've got
not
nothing
bad.
too strenuous for you. Nothing too strenuous. Just 10 questions, all about you and your collection. So,
Yep.
when we're ready, sir, we'll crack on. Right. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what memories do you have of those toy lines?
Ooh, okay. Well, I think what's pretty standard with all of us, right, is definitely Star Wars. That was
Yeah.
definitely at the forefront. Oh, I'm trying to think what else. Masters of the Universe was a big thing again, right? I think we're all roughly the same age, so
Yeah.
like we were in the sweet spot when
Well,
all the
absolutely.
toys were coming out, right? So Masters of
Absolutely.
the Universe, um, Tron. I know Tron, the original Tron did not
Yeah.
have a lot of figures, but that was something as well that was near and dear for myself. And then, of course, way back in the day, Lego was not what it is today, where you've got all these awesome branded properties. I mean, we were dealing with, maybe getting a police or a fireman station or a
That's
space
it.
set way
Yeah.
back in the day, not Star Wars or Marvel or any of that.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think Star Wars and Masters of the Universe were probably my top two. My neighbor across the street was a big GI Joe guy, so he would come to my house. We would do Star Wars and Masters. I'd go
Yeah.
across the street and I would do the GI Joe thing. I always just remember, even looking at pictures, going through old photo albums and seeing, you made do with what you had. So there were times that Luke Skywalker and Han Solo were rushing Castle Grayskull to rescue, I don't know, herself, the elf
Yeah.
from the evil whoever's, right? You made it
Absolutely.
work. So
Well, yeah.
that's definitely what I
Imagination.
remember. Yeah,
Imagination back in those days.
100%. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would say that those would be probably my main lines back in the day. So yep.
So what would I mean? Obviously, I don't want to be presumptuous. I mean, obviously, you would have been too young to see Star Wars at the pictures
I
at the
saw Star
theaters.
Wars in the
You did.
theater for yeah, oh yes. I
Okay.
do remember seeing episode 4, 5, and 6 on opening night for all three of them.
Wow.
So
Wow. That must
yeah,
have been some experience. I would have loved. I mean, I was too young to remember Star Wars. I can't remember Empire Strikes Back. So Return of the Jedi would have been my first viewing of a Star Wars film at the
yep,
on the big screen. And I mean, we're quite a subdued bunch over in the UK. We don't really sort of like celebrate films as much as what you guys do in Canada and the US. So
yes.
I would have loved to have been around at that time in the US just to experience the atmosphere of the films coming out, especially after Star Wars was such a big success.
Oh yeah.
You then had Empire and then
Mhm.
Jedi. I mean, what was it like for you as a kid?
I do remember what stands out a lot after you say Jedi is I remember my uncle took myself, my sister, and I think my cousin, and actually two of my other cousins. So he was really brave. He took 5 kids with him, and unfortunately, everything was sold out. So it was a one here, a one like none of us sat together, and it was a little freaky because you're thinking,
Yeah,
am I gonna meet up with these guys afterwards or whichever? But you know what? It's the atmosphere. It was always the lineups, looking around, going like, why are we standing in line for a movie? Whatever have you. I don't think I've ever stood in line. Well, since Jedi until I think Batman '89 would have been the next time I lined
oh
up
wow,
for a
okay,
film. So it just kind of shows you definitely the attraction, the pull that was out there for when they
yeah,
first actually hit. But like you said, I would have loved to have been able to go down to the Chinese theater down in California where where they always do those big openings and see the
yeah,
red carpets and what have you. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, that's awesome. I mean, I'd love to have experienced that. I mean, I did get to go and see the special edition trilogy at the pictures, but it wasn't the same. You know, I'd seen the films before. I mean, the only things that were different about it, obviously, with the added parts and stuff. But
Yes.
when you say Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, I mean, for you, what come first? Was it the TV series? Was it the comics? Or was it the figures?
Was definitely the figures. I didn't get into doing like comics or anything for a while, but it was definitely you saved up enough change in there and for allowance or whatever odd jobs to save up scratch a couple bucks together to try to pick up something to add into the collection. But it was definitely, yeah, it was definitely original vintage. I think I had almost everything, and unfortunately, I don't think any of it made it. It was always one of those, horror stories, right? So
Yeah.
somebody sold it all off at a garage sale. That's where my Transformers went. My aunt thought they were my cousins, sold my entire Transformers collection off on
Oh,
me, and
wow. Wow.
I remember when Power of the Force figures came out. I know everybody thought they were going to be worth something. Oh, look at vintage. Vintage is worth money. So you got to collect on card. So I had a whole bunch of Power of the Force 2 figures. My cousins came over one day, shredded them all off the card. And I was like, oh,
Really?
yeah, what?
Wow.
Oh, and my aunt's like, well, I think they thought they were helping you. Well, I wasn't going to open them, but it's just how things work. But yeah, I think I would always make sure that I was keeping up to date with at least the Star Wars figures. So
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe, that seemed to be Christmas and holidays is when I used to get those figures or the play sets or the vehicles or what have
Yeah.
you. But Star Wars was always, oh, I think I got enough. I got $2 saved up or whatever. Can we head off
Mm.
into town and add another one? So
Yeah. I mean, how was it for you as a kid going around the toy stores in like at the time after the movies had come out? I mean, I can imagine it would, shelves just full and full of Star Wars stuff down one aisle, GI Joe down another, Motu down another. I mean,
yep.
for me, the packaging is says a lot about the product, and I think a lot of that packaging for all of those toy lines at that time really did like pull you in, didn't they? I mean, how was it for
Oh,
you?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely one thing I think a lot of us miss nowadays. I mean, again, with not being in the United States, we're fairly kind of limited today as to what I can find. But again, being a kid, I don't have a lot of recollection about Toys R Us when I was a lot younger, but it was going to like the small department stores. Like for us up here would have been Sears, Zellers.
Mm,
We didn't have like KB Toys or any like purpose, like just full on toy shops to go to. So for myself, I lived in a small town about an hour outside of Toronto.
yeah,
So it was, do you take a drive into the bigger cities to find a mall, or do you make do? So we had a couple of small shops. We had like a mom and pop little shop. Then that's where I would go all the time to find my latest Hot Wheels, to get my Star Wars figures, whatever. But yeah, you would just walk in and just row after row after row, and then half the time you spend more time trying to decide what figure you
yeah,
wanted rather than,
yeah,
oh, they've got 85 C3POs up on the wall right now, so that made my decision a whole lot easier today. So yeah, it was always something to look forward to. Was
yeah,
even if it wasn't anything new coming out, it's like, well, what else could I add? Like, I was into Megaforce, which was an '80s Barry Bostwick film that not a lot of people remember, but they had a set of Hot Wheels that came out, and I remember going literally every day and bugging the owner of the store, going, "When are you
mm,
getting these?" So he definitely had a lot of little collectors already that would come to see him all the
yeah.
time. So it's the little mom and pops that I think I tend to miss. But
Mm.
nowadays, we still do have Toys R Us. I worked for Toys R Us
Oh,
just a
wow.
couple of years ago, just doing overnight stocking and early morning shifts or whatever. And it's just not the same. It just, you see holes in the collection, and half the
Yeah.
time you go, you're not finding what you want, or you're like, I'm not paying 50 something dollars for
Well, yeah.
three, and like, but I get it, right? Like everything's gone up, and that's just the way it is. But
Why do you think that is then with regards to, because like I say, we used to over here go into the toy stores and it just used to be aisles of toys and you,
yep.
you had a good pick. Why do you think it is now that you don't see that? these days in toy stores?
I think sometimes maybe it might have to deal with the deals that Hasbro or whatever toy companies have made with Walmarts and Targets and all these other stores. These exclusives, I think, are killing a lot of the collecting.
Yeah.
It's disappointing where you've got to sit there and think of plan A, B, C, and D for you just to be able to figure out, am I going to be able to get that next figure to put in, or am I going to have to reach to the far ends of the universe to
Mm.
pull in a favor from somebody and hope I'm not going to pay through the nose for it? And yeah, it is kind of sad. Like my son and I will go sometimes once a week, and we'll hit our normal stops, and it's just like you can just get that feeling. You start walking down the aisle, and you can just see it's got stuff, and then there's a gap, and then it's
Yeah.
like, well, you know what that gap is? That's the area I want to look at right now, and
Mm.
there's just nothing there, and
It's
it's a
kind of
little
heartbreaking,
disappointing.
isn't it? It is.
Yeah,
For
it's not
me,
for
it is anyway. I
kids.
mean, I go
Yeah,
into like a toy store and they don't do Black Series, they don't do Vintage Collection, they don't do Motu Origins. And I went, one of the toy stores I went to over here was called a place called Smith's. And they used to have loads of like Masters of the Universe Origins and Black Series and Vintage
mhm.
Collection. And I went in there again a few months later and it was all gone. And I said, why have you stopped stocking this? And he go, well, no one's buying it. That's the problem. No one was buying it and it was all going on reduced. So once they got rid of it, that was it. They weren't getting it in again. So
Yeah,
I don't
it
understand. I
is.
mean,
It's man, it's so difficult, and it's not a kids, and it's not, and this is not for kids anymore. Man, if I had one of my kids walking up to me going, "Can I have $35 to go pick up a new figure?" I'd be like, "You're off your rocker. Like I'm
right?
not forking
Yeah,
out 35." It was a little different when we're forking out $2 for, a vintage Star Wars figure back in the day, but like
yeah.
I get the articulation and the likenesses and the accessories, and there's all these other things, but holy man, like just even over the last 5 years the price jumps has
Yeah.
made it even more
Oh,
difficult
yeah,
to
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, since COVID, I mean, it's gone up, hasn't it?
Oh,
Since 2020, it's gone up. It's gone up extortionately. I
yeah.
mean, crikey. I mean, I look back at some of the prices, and you see like a Rebel Snow Speeder for 15, 20 quid. If you knew what you know now, you'd be like buying them in, wouldn't you? Millennium Falcon for
Absolutely.
45 quid, 50 pounds. You
Yeah.
just think out of this world. But
Yeah.
then back then, I guess that was a lot of money.
Oh, without a doubt. Like you're wondering what your parents are making per hour when a figure is like $2 or something. So what are they making? 10,
Yeah.
8, not, like, yeah. So to sit there and kind of compare the inflation rates to what we might not be making for an hourly livable wage today, but we always got to find a way to get our plastic addiction, right? So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, going back to your childhood, Saturday morning viewing for me in the UK was it had to be done, and I spent a lot of time at my friend's house watching cartoons on Saturday morning because I'd wind his mother up something chronic. I'd be around there about 8 o'clock in the morning. He's still
yep.
in bed. He's not had breakfast yet, and I've just went, okay. And I just sat there at the door, sort of thing. Oh, come in, come in. So I'd go in and end up having like breakfast with him as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was every weekend, and then in the summer holidays, maybe from 9 o'clock. But
Mhm.
how important for you was like viewing Saturday morning viewing and after
Oh,
school?
without a doubt. I mean, especially too because we weren't dealing with a lot of reruns and repeats and things like that, and we were
Mm,
starting to get into some of the shows where you kind of needed to watch previous episodes to kind of have a clue on,
yeah,
because there might have been a 3-part GI Joe episode or something like that, and
yeah,
it was always that rush. And again, I don't think my kids even know what that feeling is like, because I don't compare really any of the cartoons. Like everything seems to have such an adult feel to it nowadays, or it's got to be manganized or something like that. Whereas, yeah, it would be sometimes couldn't even sleep. You'd be up half the night going, "Oh man, what are they going to be doing on the newest episode of Mask this morning or whatever?" And
yes,
just
yeah.
sit down there. You got your big bowl full of sugary cereal and whatever else like that,
Set you
and
up for the
mom
day,
and
didn't
dad
it?
will just leave you alone, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, if I was sitting there from 8 until noon, and then maybe it started getting into a couple things I didn't like to watch, and it was like, all right, well, let's go ring the boys up and hit each other with frisbees and play live action Tron for the afternoon or something, right?
Wow.
So
I mean, how cool. I mean, it really was. It was awesome. And it's interesting that you're comparing the cartoons of back in the 80s to the cartoons now, because, you know, we've had G.I. Joe done in different guises with like
yeah,
Revelations and what was the other one? Renegades. And then you've got like Transformers War for Cybertron. Then you've got like the
yes,
new Motu series coming out, Revelations and Revolution. And they do seem to be that little bit darker, don't they, compared to the
it's
stories we had as a kid and stuff like
mhm.
that. I mean, yeah, the animation, don't get me wrong, the animation is fine. But why, in your opinion, then, do you feel that it's sort of changed from the 80s to what it is now with the way they tell stories, that darker, sinister tone to it?
I honestly think a lot of the people that are producing this stuff, I think are again, I think I almost have a feeling that they've kind of grown up with us. Like they
Yeah.
seem to be again our age type of thing, and that they're just like, this is if I was still watching this series, this is where I would like it to have developed into 30 years later or what have you.
Yeah.
So if that means like the two new Masters of the Universe, I am so enjoying these so much. I wish they were longer. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, so it makes it a little bit easier to go, yeah, good job, Kevin. But just to see and go, well, at least I'm not expecting one of those, hey, don't cross the road, like those little public announcements that they'd give you at the end of GI Joe or
Yeah.
whatever else like
Yeah.
that. Like you don't get that wholesome innocence anymore now. Now it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, man, I don't even know how to get the right words out for it, but it's like,
Preachy. It
I
didn't
really
sound,
think
does it
it's
sound preachy?
a little bit, yeah, maybe. So,
Yeah.
but it's oh, yeah, I don't, it's yeah, it's just it's a something. I just think that some of the lines that have made it through or that they've redeveloped into more of a darker
Yeah.
thing. I think they totally know that they're going, well, we're not throwing this out at the 6-year-olds. We're throwing this out at the 46-year-olds. So of course, they don't need to know about brushing your teeth before going to bed. They want to see something maybe a little bit, a little bit on the darker
Mm.
side or
I mean,
definitely
I
more
guess they
adult
have
themed.
tried with Masters of the Universe. The universe, they did have that other version of Masters of the Universe, didn't they? That, you know, the oversized kind of like.
Yeah.
Do you
Yes.
remember that
Yeah.
one?
So
With
yeah.
the
So they did a
PSP? Yeah,
kids version and then and
yeah,
more of an
yeah,
adult version. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
I
then they
didn't care
tried it
for the
again with
kids.
Star Wars, haven't they? With it, is it Jedi, not Jedi Tales, Young Jedi's or
Oh,
something like that?
yeah, something like I haven't watched any
Yeah,
of that
no,
cartoon
I
at
watched a
all. I didn't
couple, but I
watch
was like, mm.
Resistance when Resistance came out. That was another Star Wars one I
Oh, you
passed on
see,
because I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, again, I watched it. It was a hard watch. It unfortunately for me, it's not one of those things that I could go back and watch again. Because
yeah,
I know it is aimed at kids. I mean, Star Wars predominantly was aimed at kids, as are all of these
mhm,
IPs. But it just seems like you say the adults have seemed to have grown up with it, and they've sort of like changing it for them. It's, you know, they're not
yeah,
aiming it at kids anymore, are they? Really, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah,
But there you are.
absolutely.
There you are. Um. So, what was your favorite toy line as a kid, and why? What made it stand out head and shoulders above everything else? Or did you have phases where it was one thing, then something else come out, and you got into that, and then you moved on to that and something else?
I honestly think it for the most part it was always Star Wars. That always I always seem to always have a figure in one of my pockets of my pants or a coat or like I just that went with me everywhere. It just captured my imagination. There wasn't all
Mm,
these computerized special effects like we see today, and
yeah,
and like with the facial recognition stuff to so they can de-age you and the whole like nothing. It was all practical effects. So
yeah.
that just kind of again, just that opening crawl and just the opening laser blasts that are flying over like that was enough to go, oh my god, like is this something that I'm gonna actually get to see in my lifetime? Are we gonna be cruising around
Yeah,
being
yeah,
space cowboys and the whole bit? Because I was a big fan of westerns as well, Magnificent Seven,
yeah.
Clint Eastwood, and I mean, absolutely, Star Wars just screams that, and that's just a slightly futuristic version of space westerns, like really.
Well,
And
that's
it's
that. I mean, that's what it was set out to be, wasn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely. So it's never really gone. It's always there's always been something that if I'm not been actively collecting, because there's been years in between, that it just feels like it's home. It's homey, it's comfort. It doesn't really change no matter how many times other people try to change the IP for Star Wars.
Yeah.
It, generally speaking, it's just it's there, and you can rely on it for the most part. You may not love all of it, but to think where we are today with the amount of Star Wars properties now, I wouldn't have
Mm.
thought that after walking out of Return of the Jedi. I wouldn't have been like, well, how many more years do we got to wait for the next thing? Like, as far as I was concerned back then, I was like, all right, well, that's cool. We got 3 Star Wars movies. I'm going to watch those until the cows come home. And, well, I guess that's going to be it.
Do you
So,
wish that would have been it? Do you wish they would just stayed and ended it at Return of the Jedi? Do you feel it was the right decision to go back and do episodes? Well, I guess if he'd started off at because it was Star Wars at the time, wasn't it? It
it
wasn't
was,
even like
yes.
episode 4.
Yep.
Then when that obviously was the hit it was, they went into episode 5 and then he could finish it off. So then I guess
Yes.
there was every chance that he was going to go back and do that. But do you wish he'd have just left it as it was, or he would have done it
At,
closer to the
at
time period of?
times, yeah, at
Yeah.
times I would like, because again, obviously, you see nowadays where they're running into problems when they're recasting for like Solo, like,
Mm.
like just things like that. It's like, well, maybe, yeah. Like, I'm not. The prequels are growing on me. I wouldn't say I'm a massive,
Yeah.
massive prequel fan.
Yeah.
Out of the 3, episode 3 would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Clone War, episode 2 is that's a hard watch for me, and even 1 is a bit of a hard sit. But Lucas has never been known for his Oscar-worthy writing material, so
No.
you kind of take it. But yeah, I mean, even the sequels, I was excited to hear they were coming back. Episode 7 I thought it was decent because it was just a rehashing of episode 4, just
Yeah.
modernized for new eyeballs.
Yep.
And then after that one, it was, man,
Tank
oh,
going
they just
downhill,
jumped
didn't
off
it?
the cliff. So
But I mean,
I can't even talk about episode 8 without foaming at the mouth. So,
but as
but I
far as
think they should have,
openings to
yeah.
movies are concerned, as far as openings to movies are concerned, when you have that, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, then it's just silence. Then it's Star Wars comes up and it's ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
is there anything better than that as an opening? Then you have the crawl, then you have the Star Destroyer coming over the top. I mean, how cool is that as an intro to a film? I mean, and the music
Absolutely.
gets you hooked as well, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh man, my wife and I were sitting around last night, and we were doing some quiz things off of YouTube, and we were just going, okay, well, it's either going to be Alan Silvestri, John Williams, or a few other different composers or whatever. And yeah, I mean that's a good chunk of it too. Like to also throw a classical score on something like that
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
At the,
Like
at the time, because it was all disco, wasn't it? At the time, around
yeah,
about that,
yeah,
the
yeah.
70s, late 70s.
So yeah, just I don't know, would it have worked if that would have been something he would have tried into like today? I don't know if Star Wars would have flown now, but to cement himself where George did back then, I don't blame him for deciding to try to keeping up with the property and trying to get more stuff out of it. But
Yeah,
at the same time, like, again, it's like, how many times can you possibly update the original trilogy? Like, get
well,
rid of
that's
all
it.
that
Yeah,
computerized garbage, put it back to where it was, and just let it be. I considered it was perfect back then. I didn't need to see Jabba the Hutt show up in episode 4.
no, agreed. Yeah,
So
agreed.
yeah.
What about the figures? What about the figures? I mean, how, as a kid, going into the toy shop for the first time and seeing all the Star Wars stuff, because you had to wait a while, because of
Yes.
the film
Yes.
release, and then
Yep.
about a year later. How was that as a feeling? What was that like as a
Oh,
kid?
yeah, when you just saw, like, just again, and they were no small displays back then. They were
No, no.
just, that was it. Like, you'd almost have a full aisle of Star Wars, but to sit and go, look at all these boxes of Falcons and X-Wings and the Stormtrooper TIE Fighter and the Darth Vader TIE Fighter, and just, again, you spend more time trying to pick a figure rather than going, oh, they got the same 3 figures on the peg. I have all 3 of those, so
Yeah,
I'm not going to bring Lobot or a Bespin Guard or somebody else home. I need I need the R2 with the lightsaber that pops out of his dome. That's
Yeah.
it. But to sit there and just to see just it was goosebumps. You know, you'd walk in and you wouldn't even walk. You'd run into the store and the parents would always know where you were going. I'll be in Star Wars, and it would be like trying to just yank you right back out of the building if you
Oh,
didn't get enough
such
time to
good
sit
days,
there
weren't
and
they?
stare at it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I see pictures on the internet every now and again of like what toy stores used to look like, and
mhm.
it for me, just seeing them, I'm like, oh, it was like you say, it was like the golden era of
Yeah,
toys, wasn't it, back then in
yep,
TV series and stuff like that? It's how things change, how things change. Um,
absolutely.
when did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you become a collector or realize you'd become a collector?
Well, I would say I don't know, honestly. I don't think I've ever technically stopped playing with toys.
Yeah.
I think as far as being actively having things all set up and whatever else, or probably getting into high school, probably. It's like if I had
Okay.
buddies
Yeah.
come over, I'm not sure how it would have felt going, hey, come on over and check. Whereas now being 50, I'm like, yeah, come on in and check out my Star Wars toys, you know? But I would say I probably always like in my vehicles. I've got a little dangling Millennium Falcon. I've had probably 14 or 15 cars over that time frame, and that Falcon is the first thing that goes into my new car every time. I plug them up
Cool.
there, and so there's always some attachment. As far
Yeah.
as collector, I don't think I would have ever considered myself back then a collector through my teens. Probably not. Even through my 20s and 30s, I don't think. Every once in a while, something might catch my eye and I might be like, "Ooh, that's kind of neat." But I didn't really walk down the toy aisles for years. I didn't even know Black Series was even a thing until 5 years into the Black Series line, because my son, he was always
Oh.
about Lego. So we would go
Yeah.
down the Lego aisles and
Yeah.
I wouldn't bother looking down the action figure aisles to see the Marvel Legends or Transformers or any of that stuff. So it was just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And then I think I got back into, because I am a pretty big Batman fan, the animated series and the 66.
Yeah. Yeah. Decent.
Um,
Yeah.
so I've got some. So I started collecting Batman the Animated Series. Is where my family bought me at a church bazaar the Batmobile in the box, still
Oh
from
wow.
Batman the Animated Series. So the flap had been open, stickers were not applied. It was still wrapped in plastic, and they got it for a steal. And then I started going, hey, there's toy shows and there's these other things out there again. Let's start
Yeah.
hitting them up. And then
Awesome.
that just kind of, I was Batman fixated for a good chunk of time, and then so yeah, I would say probably mid to late 30s before I think I would consider myself like a minor collector. Now I'll say
Now
I'm a big
you
collector. So,
you've certainly got a decent collection. And I mean, I was pretty much like you. I mean, I didn't realize Black Series was a thing until I think it was 2017 when the 40th anniversary Star Wars figures come out on
right.
the picture. And I remember at the time walking into our local Toys R Us and I saw it on an end cap and I was like double check. I was like, oh wow, look at this. I was straight over there
Mm,
and it felt like I was a kid again.
it
Seeing
did.
those card backs, and yeah, it was a 6-inch figure, but I was like, I did not realize they did these. Took the card off, had a look at the back and thought, oh, they're doing these as well. And
Hmm.
at that time I got the figures that were available. I think I got about, I think it was must have been about 4 or 5 of them. So
Yeah.
money well spent. But to me, I didn't realize Black Series was a thing. I kind of heard of the vintage collection, and I realized they did like 5 POA figures, and
Yeah.
you had all those different lines, like Saga collection and the likes. But to me, seeing those figures in that shop and seeing the car backs, it was just like wow. And I've got to say, I do like Black Series. I have cut back a bit on what I get. It's just basically
Yeah.
now going to be exclusives and anniversary car backs. But
Hmm.
yourself, I mean, like, you've got a fantastic collection. You've got a fair bit of Black Series going on there. Is that your preferred scale?
Yeah, you know what? A buddy of mine has always said, that for himself, he grew up, he got bigger. So it was nice for the hand feel. So I said the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Being a 6'5" or 6'5", a 6 foot guy. My hands have gotten bigger than being a 6 or 7 year old. And in all
Mm,
honesty, the first time I grabbed a proper vintage Star Wars figure just a few years ago, I almost felt like it was that I was being put on. I was like, this isn't real. Were these that small? Were they seriously? Like, what's because again, the last 5 or 6 years, I've been able to bend them at the elbows and bend them at the knees and get
yeah,
them into sniper positions and things
yeah,
that we never were able to. We had to use our imagination because everybody went like this all the time.
yep,
Or if you
yep,
happen to have that goofy looking Han Solo with his, with
yeah,
his, oh, so I mean, yeah, I would say 6 inch. I love the detail. Nothing against the vintage guys because they are beautiful figures. I think
yeah.
had I come across the vintage line prior to Black Series, I don't even want to even think about how scary that would be because I probably would have been I would have gone right in all in on vintage. I've got really bad OCD, so I'm kind of one up, all up type of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
once I start on something, I am so hyper focused on it that I may or may not make good decisions at times. And I know I have definitely overpaid for a few pieces, but that's just kind of what you do, I guess, at times,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. I mean,
So
listen, we're all guilty of overpaying for stuff. Absolutely,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
no different. But so, what do you currently collect then? I mean, do you have a focus, or you just stick to one line, or do you sort of like collect across the board, just different lines every now and again,
I
whatever
s-
tickles your
so
fancy?
where I'm kind of at right now, I think it has taken me 5 or 6 years that I've been kind of hardcore back into this, where I'm kind of getting to a point where I'm like, this does represent me now. It's not just all Star Wars, but I'm cutting back on Black Series. It pains me to say this, but
Mm,
I was a completionist up until the end of 2022.
that's
And
still a
then
lot
I
of
just
figures.
couldn't,
That's still a
yeah,
lot of
and I
figures.
couldn't take it anymore. After
Mm,
Hasbro, I didn't want to see another stupid 2 pack of shiny figures that don't need to be shiny. I don't need to pay
yeah,
$105 for
yeah,
those figures on Amazon. Like I get the gimmick versions that, I love the credit collection. I've got all 3 seasons from Mando. I get it. I love the card backs. I am mostly an opener, but there's just some things about some of this stuff. It's just like, ugh, I don't like the exclusives. I don't like how hard it is to find the stuff. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna collect what I think I can fit
yeah, yeah.
and what I think looks really good. I mean, this is the first time I just finished selling off all of my sequel figures as of
Wow,
yesterday. Actually,
wow.
I think I've got a Kylo Ren. I've got Ray on her creamsicle speeder thing,
Yeah.
but I had them all. And I was like, you know what? They've been packed up for so long. They make
Mm,
me kind of sad because I don't have as much emotional grab at those. But yeah, so I've been slowing down on Black Series. It's still my main thing. I will
yeah.
still, as much as I complain about Hasbro and what they do and what they don't, I will still buy it. Um, GI Joe Classified has I
Yeah,
don't know
I've
how
seen that in there. I mean,
I
that is a
fell
decent
backwards
line, isn't it?
into it. Yeah, and they are
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing what you can see, what a company can do when it's their own property. So Hasbro
right.
obviously owns GI Joe, lock, stock, and barrel. So if they want to give us 185 accessories with one figure for $30, they can do that. Whereas we get a Black Series with, if we're lucky, a blaster or a lightsaber, and we'll
Yeah,
pay a premium for it and that's it. But I know it's also what the parent company is telling Hasbro that they can make. So,
yeah,
so I will say it's definitely Black Series number one. GI Joe is becoming a very strong number two. I am trying to complete the original line of the vintage collection. I have probably about 45 original figures in
okay.
different states of completionist or not.
Yeah,
Even if I
yeah.
can just get just the figure and he has nothing, I'll consider that a win. I know I'm getting too late to try it, especially the last 17. I don't think that's going to be a thing, but
Yeah, they're just
I'm,
ridiculous prices.
yeah. And so now what I'm trying, and then Masters of the Universe, like so the Revelation figures.
Yeah.
My son collects Origins. I do
Oh,
the
wow.
I do the other line here and there, and then lately I've been just looking for pieces that I had as a kid that I want to have so people can see like that. Oh,
Yeah,
hey, I collected masks. I've got a mask piece here. I've got a GoBot sitting on the and so little bits, like I said, I've got, that's my Hot Wheels
Okay.
Mega Destroyer, and that's
That's right. Hang on,
from
let's get
that
this on the
Mega
big screen
Force
there.
movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
Barry Bostwick, 1982, I think. So yeah, I found a local guy. He had 3 out of the 5, and I'm like,
Wow.
I had those as a kid, and I beat the crap out of them. I would like to have that again as representation of me
Mm.
on there. It's like my Funkos and stuff. I share the basement area with my son and his ginormous Lego collection, and then my daughter.
Oh,
They
so
have
that
their
was your
crap.
son's Lego collection, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
my son does Harry Potter and Marvel. I am primarily Star Wars Lego.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a few. So those I would say for sure. Masters of the Universe, Star Wars, and GI Joe. So it's like the three main ones that I kind of played
Mm.
around with as a kid. I haven't bothered trying to get into that third party stuff. Like Ramen Toys has been doing those
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean.
new
Yeah.
mask but not mask
Yeah.
vehicles and stuff. And I'm like, I don't have that kind of budget. Again, I got one
No,
kid
that's
getting
the
ready to
thing,
go
isn't
off
it? It's
to
money and space.
college.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so unfortunately, yeah, we tend to stick to this, but yeah, I've been
No, it's good. It's
yeah,
good. I mean,
grail hunting. So
Black Series collector as you are,
yeah,
how disappointed are you that when you look across to the GI Joe section of the classifieds, they've had 2 successful fundings on their HasLabs, the Hiss Tank and the Dragonfly. I mean,
yes.
I wish I would have gone in for those because those things look absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
As a Star Wars collector, how disappointed are you that they've not quite managed? Well, they've not managed to do it at all in HasLab, have they, for the 6-inch? But why is it
No.
so that? Well, why is it that they can do it for the 6-inch GI Joe classified, but not Black Series Star Wars?
I think part of it has to do with the team that they've got. Their whole Joe team has just got their stuff together. The Black Series team, not so much. I felt that Rancor, that was, I don't know what they were trying to pull with that. Like it just seemed like, let's just throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Oh, here we're
Yeah,
gonna give you some bones and a cardboard backdrop. It's like, what? Like, how about you focus? And I understand some people get upset that they weren't going to do an Ula figure, but I'm sorry, this day and age, we're never going to get that figure.
spot
Just like
on.
we're
I've
never
been
going to
saying
get it.
that. I've been saying that. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Yeah.
Hut Slayer Leia. We're never going to get an updated version of Hut Slayer Leia
No.
ever. So, you know what? Fanboys, sorry, bring that down a little bit. I mean, I don't need all the bell. I would have loved to have had a 6-inch scaled Rancor. That's the
Yeah.
only one I've ever tried to fund. And that was it. But again, it comes down to what is Lucasfilm? What is Disney saying to them that they're able to kind of put out there? Does Disney want them to do a Rancor keeper? Which I think that was a big mistake that they didn't announce that right off the bat. They had to,
Yeah.
oh, we better
Absolutely.
scramble. It
Absolutely.
just, everything felt so cookie cutter when it comes to a lot of the Black Series live
The Rancor
stream.
Keeper, he should have been the first one. He should have been the first stretch goal. The bones in the cardboard background should have been the base. That should have come
Yeah,
with the Rancor in itself,
yeah,
shouldn't it? Really?
yeah,
You know?
exactly. And then to do Reva's lightsaber, like
Yeah.
you already do a lightsaber line. Why would you need to crowd fund another Black Series lightsaber? Like that
Yeah.
just was like, what are you guys trying to think? Maybe we should do a slightly cheaper one. A lot of people hated that character, so that just, as soon as I'm like, that's not going to fund as well. Like I see all my other buddies, and sometimes I feel bad for them because they're like, man, I'm forking out for the Marvel Legends stuff. I'm throwing stuff into
Yeah.
GI Joe. The
Yeah.
Transformers every time always funds. And then you in the vintage, like like the sail barge, that is beautiful. I don't know what I would have done had I gone vintage and not had a chance to get at one of those.
You'd
Because
have
they're
been out
just,
of pocket, I tell you. You'd have been spending a lot of money.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
even the Razor Crest, or
Yeah.
like I'd be like, oh, obviously I like the Mandalorian. I love the Mandalorian show. I'd
Yeah.
love to have representation of a vehicle or something, but the Black Series, I don't know what it is. I think the small vehicles, like the Dewback, I think they do an amazing job at. I
Yeah.
think they should just not even try to go, let's do a 6-inch scaled A-wing. I don't really want a 6-inch scaled A-wing. I'd rather have, something different. I think an ATST, an AT-AT would be pretty sweet, but
Yeah.
like it's just, do we all have space for things like that as well?
Absolutely not. No, no. But
So
why
I
is
and
it
I
then that they
sold.
why? So sorry, what? So why do they get it right then? Is it because GI Joe Classified is their baby? They don't have the restraints of Lucasfilm and Disney to hold them back. They can go right because I mean they're not small vehicles, are they?
No,
You know.
no, not at all. I mean, if you look at, just trying to see here, what did they? Oh, they just announced their little Jeep, right? I think
Mm.
it's coming out. It's like
Yeah,
100
the van.
US.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, the
like,
van.
okay, 100 US. It's not horrible considering when the Baroness and that goofy motorbike Fang thing that they gave her, that was almost $80 for that when that
Yeah,
first dropped up in
yeah,
Canada. So I'm like, $100, that's not bad. You can fit the figures in, and again, their legs aren't just going straight up, like they're actually going to bend like a normal person.
mm.
That's not horrible. Then you look at Valaverse, which are doing military
Yeah,
toys
yeah,
and things, and you look at their vehicles, and their vehicles are 300 American. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, what is this thing gonna do? Is it gonna drive itself? Like I don't
yeah,
know, but I honestly really think it's what they have to work with. So the
yeah,
Valaverse, that guy created that line himself, and this is what he wanted because he wasn't finding things in the lines that he liked.
yeah,
Classified is the exact same. Classified, the first 6 or 7 figures that they released when they first started the line
yeah.
were
Weren't great, were
abysmal.
they?
Hated the
Yeah,
paint apps. I don't own any of them. I'm like, I don't like that Duke. I don't like the Scarlet. They fixed that problem so quick,
yeah.
and they have been full steam ahead ever since. I am just like flabbergasted at some of these ones. And I don't know a lot of the Joe guys. Like I might have had a handful when I was a kid of GI
Yeah,
Joe, but because I went to my buddy's house across the street, he had everything. He had the flag, he had the space shuttle, he had a whole room dedicated just to GI Joe as a kid
wow,
because his parents
wow,
bought him everything. He had doubles and triples, quads of stuff. So
wow.
if something was no good as much, hey, here, you want this guy? He's a little wobbly. I'm like, who cares? I'm not paying for him. I'm good with that. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you look at it and go, if they had 100% just go carte blanche, I would love to see what they could do with Black Series, but
mm.
it's just not
That's
going
the
to
thing,
happen.
isn't it? I mean, Hasbro get a lot of stick and rightfully so for some of the stuff they do, but then they can get it absolutely spot on, can't they? And make it
Oh
right.
yeah,
And that is what makes them so frustrating. You know, I know the primarily they're at the end of the day, they're a company, their aim is to make money
yeah.
more so than anything else. You know, it's business, but yeah, that they can be frustrating. Do you have a sentimental piece or a prized piece within your collection?
Oh boy. So there are a lot of pieces. So what I've been hunting for lately have been more graily pieces. So for myself,
Yeah.
a new piece for me.
Well, that
I'm
was
a
going to be
big
the next question anyway. Is
Yeah.
a grail piece? Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
Is
So
that
there's
legacy?
a couple. Yeah. So I'm a big Obi-Wan Kenobi fan.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I won a Disney Parks Legacy Obi-Wan lightsaber from a YouTuber. Unfortunately, it got lost in the mail. I tried to buy it. I tried to buy this one time. The blade that came with it was part of a broom handle. So
Okay.
it's been one of those things that it's like maybe it's just not meant to be. So recently, I just stumbled across this piece, not complete. There's no blade, but it still has everything else to display,
Yeah.
and I got it for an amazing deal. So that's definitely one of my Grail pieces. A lot of pieces here represent a lot of my subscribers.
Okay.
There
Yeah.
are custom pieces in my collection from like this piece here, my Dio, that came from Australia. A guy in Michigan built me Jabba's throne pad. Most
Wow.
of my convention exclusive figures have come from one guy out in California. There's another gentleman, a good friend, Mr. B. I have my NECA Universal Monsters from him.
Okay.
So there's just when I'm having a really bad day and I don't feel like trying to film a video or do a live stream or anything, I can come and sit down here and just turn this set of lights on and just sit back in my chair, and my eyes can just go to certain spots, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there's Linda, there's Dave, there's Brian, there's Brandon, like, and it just warms me up so much that I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't believe people, one, have sent me this, two, have made something and sent this to me. And it just, I'm like, I'm just some freaking middle-aged white guy in southern Ontario, Canada, just talking out of his butt sometimes. So but yeah, it's I don't know. It's you start doing one thing, and this has just turned into something completely nothing I would have thought it would have done. Like now
Yeah.
that I'm like, I don't feel the need to have every single Black Series figure. I don't. I don't need 105 Luke Skywalkers. Just give me 5 definitive versions of him. That I don't need another version of him down the road where they've
Yeah.
added a new
Yeah.
swivel to his elbow or something. Just
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, I would say friends and family. It's comfort. It's I feel like it's a big giant hug.
That's awesome. I mean, look, I've got some of those legacy lightsabers myself,
Oh, they're beautiful.
and it started off. We went to Galaxy's Edge, and I got the Luke one from Return of the Jedi, the green one. So I got the blade with
Yeah.
it and mail because I didn't want to take it on the plane with me. So I took the hilt with me in the little case, and the blade went back and stuff like that. And yeah, so that started off, and I've got big posters of the 3 films in my front room.
Yeah.
So with the Return of the Jedi poster, I've now got my green lightsaber with Luke. And then I think the next one I got was who was it? Darth Vader's. So I've got Darth Vader. Then opposite that, I've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi one. So my wife got me that for one Christmas. I think it's the same as your one.
Yeah.
So I've got that. And then just recently, I've got the Anakin Skywalker one before it was reforged.
Oh, nice.
So proper happy with that because I didn't think I was ever going to see that one again because they stopped doing them. So you can't get them in the parks, but what they do is they do them in these packs, and it's a pre-pack, so it comes with the blade, but it's only the short blade that they do it with. So I obviously got the one with the long blade, so OCD. But now I've got the 4 lightsabers that I need. I don't think I'm going to be needing any more now. So they look fantastic when they're on, but my God, I wish they had designed a volume button in there because all you can hear is this humming. And it's just like, oh God, okay, 2 seconds of that, and I'm like, oh, I'll turn it off. But yeah, they're fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Considering when we were kids, it was a stick or a broom handle that we were.
Yeah.
Wait, I mean, couldn't tell you how many times my knuckles probably got wrapped by my buddies back then. I'm surprised I didn't break anything, but to finally go like that's.
Yeah, I mean, they look great. They do look great.
And the quality, like I was surprised when the guy handed it to me. I was like, ooh, that's actually got some weight.
There's some weight in there.
To it. So I'm like, fantastic. So it's nice, too, right? When you can check mark. Oh, got my lightsaber hilt. Done. Don't have to look for another one. I do have to find a blade, and I'm not sure how hard that's going to be because Hasbro's been a real pain. And I've been emailing back and forth with them saying, listen, I have the hilt. I've got the other piece for the blade. I've got the thing. I just need a blade. Where can I? Well, we don't just sell the blade. I'm like, well, then can you, can I buy a third party that'll work with? Well, we don't really know. I'm like, all right, well, at least it displays well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it was cheap. Like I got it for a steal. So
well, you can't argue with that. Argue with that. If going forward, you could only collect one toy line, what would it be and why? So you've got a choice there. So all the toy lines that you've got there now, you get to keep them, but going forward, you can only collect one more.
I would go back and I would throw it into vintage. I would try to complete and even start going into the vehicles and some of that stuff. I think Black Series. Wow. Yeah, I think Black Series wise, I have enough representation. I still think the original trilogy is lacking major characters, but it looks like they're going to be focusing on prequel. it sounds like it's going to be fairly prequel heavy this year.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, I can use a few more Jedi, but that would be about it. So Hasbro's not going to get nearly as much of my money this year, so I'd rather go and try to track down like a complete R2D2 with maybe the stickering on him, or
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Droid Factory or something. Because there were a few sets I had as a kid that I didn't have when I was a kid. The Droid Factory was one of them. So I think that would be the next thing I would do. I've got a shell of a Millennium Falcon and a couple of cloud cars that are shells. So lately I've been just trying to pick up pieces to see if I can actually do a rebuild on some of the original vehicles.
Yeah. When you started collecting, is it kind of like I'd say regrets kind of like a hard word or like a harsh word to use, but do you kind of regret not getting the original Kenner figures first before you got all the new stuff, or are you quite happy with the way things have sort of like panned out?
If any, well, a little bit of both, but I do find that I love them for two different reasons. I love to see how updated and how cool figures have gotten over the years, to go from 5 POA or just a block of wood prior to when we were kids or whatnot, right? Like, but to see something like this, where the line or where Star Wars is sitting right now, and that's with SH Figuarts or any of that other stuff. But just I don't know what it is. It just, I think it's almost given me more love for the vintage stuff, which is kind of pushing me to go, yeah, you need to have as many of them back as you possibly can. So I think this benefited vintage a lot for me.
Wow. Okay. Blimey. I've just looked at the time and it's flown by. I mean, it's coming up to the top of the hour already, and this conversation has gone far too quick. I've still got 3 questions left, so it's all good. If we run over, we run over. What got you into doing a YouTube channel, and did you have any influences to start your channel?
Okay. Well, I should have pre-warned you. I talk a lot. So anyway, yeah. I was off. I had some medical stuff. I had a full right hip replacement.
Wow.
So I had a lot of free time on my hands.
Yeah.
So I fell down the YouTube rabbit hole like some people do. This was before COVID, because I wasn't going anywhere. And the first person I came across, I didn't know what YouTube really was. I knew my kids watched stuff on it, and I'm like, oh, that's just a big waste of time. I came across this guy named Mike Case, and I binged his channel from whatever he had was the newest, and I watched every single thing he had multiple times. He was big in with Transformers and Black Series, and he dabbles with some Legends, and now he's all over the place now. So I messaged him one time, and I'm like, dude, I love your content. I'd love to send you something. And I think he thought I was kind of joking at first, like, why does this random guy want to send me anything? And I'm like, no, seriously. I said, I understand we don't make a lot of money on YouTube or whatever, and this is my way to say thank you for all this entertainment. So I did up a little care package. He finally got a PO box, and I sent him some stuff out. And so every once in a while, I'd send another box out, and he'd be like, oh, we got another gift from. So that's where the Papa Gord, the Canadian Santa Claus, came from. He basically made the name. So I was just sending random people boxes of cool nerdy things. And so he kind of branded me. And then I was like, well, could I maybe try that? I don't know. I'm fairly introverted, so I don't normally stick myself out there on anything, but I was like, I'll give it a try, and we'll just see. And it was, my first 3 Black Series figures that I had bought were $5 each on clearance. I got the Jyn Erso, the Flame Trooper from the First Order, and the Cassian in his blue.
Oh yeah, I know.
$5 each. So that was my introduction to Black Series. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I just kind of plugged away at it. Now we're over 5 years later. I've almost got 1,000 uploads on the channel in 5 years. So
that's
I'm about 30 more things. And some days I love it. Well, most days I love it. Some days I hate it. And I'm just like, oh, I just got to walk away for a while, because you just get stressed, or you get wrapped up in the numbers games here and there and whatever else. But generally, Um, yeah, I think it's fantastic. I've met some amazing people over the last few years, from all over the place. That
Yeah.
I got a lot of open invitations. So when I decide to go on holidays or whatever, I'm going to be in Scotland and part of England in the summer this year.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
cool. Awesome
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I find
So
it interesting when you said that you were quite inverted. And so when you started collecting and you built your collection up, was it a kind of a case of you didn't want to tell anybody, you didn't want to talk to anybody outside about your hobbies and stuff like that? Because the reason I'm asking is because I felt the same way. I've always been a collector of sorts. I've had different collections over the years. I've got rid of them. I've moved them on. Then I've started again. And this one I've been collecting now for a good, what, 12 years.
yeah.
I'm not getting rid of that. Don't worry about that. But it was never a case of me talking about it to anybody. Obviously, Georgie knew and my family knew, but that was it. You know, that
Yeah.
was very sort of like secretive um, um, about it. It was only then when I decided to eventually get onto YouTube that I kind of opened up and, do you know, I'm like,
Yes.
who cares?
Yeah.
I was so surprised when there was so many people out there that did the same thing I did. I thought, well,
Mhm.
why not start a channel? Why
Yeah.
not get talking to these people and share our collections and stuff like that?
Yes.
So, do you
Yeah.
think that's helped you in a way as to not be so kind of like
Yeah.
invert about
I
your
I would I
collection and
would
stuff?
say I would say so. Yeah, I would say almost exactly what you were saying there. That yeah, my family knew. What at my job, I generally work a lot by myself. I don't have other
Yeah,
team members or whatever, so I
yeah. I
don't
wish I had that.
interact with a whole lot of other people. But
Yeah,
going out and hunting for new figures and that, I
yeah,
started bumping into local other buyers or scalpers or whatever other terms you want to use. I became friends with a couple of them, and then they were, and then I was just like, yeah, I'm kind of messing around with this thing, or with this YouTube, and not quite sure. I'm really new to it and everything else. And they're like, oh, really? Well, give me your link or whatever. It was when extended family had come over. And once we had done this setup, because I only had a little orange bookshelf that had 3 shelves, and I had probably 300 figures just shoved onto that shelf. You couldn't see anything. If you grabbed
wow,
one,
yeah,
you'd knock them all down. So when we were eventually renovating the basement, my wife's like, I think we're going to finally be able to get you a space. And I was like, nice. I got 5 shelves now, and then I do have some in behind me and some over here now. But it's but I think her parents came down, and then her dad comes in, and he kind of goes back, didn't say a word, and the whole thing. And
seriously,
then I'm like, my wife, yeah, my father-in-law was just like, he's such a practical guy, working on the farm all the time, doesn't
yeah,
watch movies or anything fun. Like he's a workaholic, and so he just kind of considers this stuff kind of, that's just all your silly things, right? And I'm like, well, I've got 18, almost 1900 subscribers, so it can't be that silly with people that actually listen to me once in a while. So, but yeah, it definitely helped being invited on to other, like I know
yeah.
Shabby, I've been on Universal Shabby Reviews before, and the Holo Chronicles. So it really kind of helped just kind of grab Mr. Quiet Guy, and kind of now Mr. Quiet Guy won't shut up most of the time. So
No, it's good. I mean, listen, I
yeah,
mean, I was in the same boat as you. I mean, you know, I'd come off social media. It was all sort of like kicked off over COVID and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, I just not interested, not interested. And then there was some like other hullabaloo and stuff like that. And but I've thoroughly enjoy it. I really do.
yeah,
It is time consuming. It is time
oh,
consuming. So I've said many times before, I take my hat off to people who do a channel, because I don't think people on the outside looking in realize how much time and effort a YouTube creator, no matter what it is they're doing, puts into it. I mean, I've been doing some. I don't do shorts. It's one
no,
thing I don't do. But for this charity that I'm promoting in March and raising money for, I've done like 3 or 4 shorts just to
mhm,
help promote it. They took absolutely ages to edit. They really did, and they're 30 odd second shorts, and they
yeah,
took
yeah,
at least 2-3 hours to try and edit to get it all together and stuff like that. And it's, so I take my hat off to people who do this kind of thing. I really do, no matter
oh,
what their
absolutely.
they're going on about and stuff like that. But yeah,
No, it is true. My whole shtick for the longest time was one take. So if I said and ah a million times, you were gonna hear and ah as many times as it came out of my mouth, because I was like, I don't know how to cut, I don't know how to blend, I don't know how to edit, I don't know how to put a sound effect in or make a thing go. 5+ years later, I still don't know most of it. My son wants to
wow,
go to school for video editing and stuff, and I can't even
wow.
get him to help me out, for God's sake. So I just kind of go with it.
Oh,
So I have been slowly,
yeah,
because again, all that stuff costs money, like for your editing, your software. And I mean, it's not like,
well,
oh,
yeah,
what, you
that's
want to
it.
start a YouTube channel? So here, you sign up and we'll send you a gift bag that has all the things in it you need to be successful at this.
Yeah,
It's going to be uh, upgrade the camera, maybe this paycheck, or maybe add a second monitor in 3 months time, or new lighting, or what have you, right? It's
yeah,
on just
yeah.
ongoing.
There's
So
so
yeah.
much, isn't there, that you don't realize. I mean, I remember editing my first video and I was like, good God, wow. It took forever. And I was like, and then it's got an upload as well. And you think, oh my God. And that, oh, but yeah, it's all good fun.
Yeah,
It's enjoyable. And I'm getting a lot out of it, which is good.
that's
Um,
great.
and I think the key thing is you have to enjoy it, because if you don't, there's no point doing it.
Yeah, and that's it. So that's why, like, I've kind of February is not a great, again, I've used my channel multiple times. So I do suffer from depression and anxiety. I use my channel for that as well. Like I don't keep anything from anybody. I'm a straight
Mm,
shooter,
yeah,
and it's been a benefit, because I know other people out there have definitely benefited from hearing me talk about my experiences and other things as well. So sometimes it's hard for me to be just Gord and not Papa Gord. And like when people sometimes say, well, don't worry, but well, you know what, unless you're in my shoes and in my brain, you
yeah.
have to understand, if I put all this effort into something and I see that 5 people have watched it, I'm sorry, I'm gonna take that as a bit of a negative. And it may take me a little bit of time to work that out of my system and that bad taste in my mouth, because then maybe the next video, maybe that one will catch. But
Yeah.
it's still just trying to go, don't take it personally, who cares if you get a thumbs down, because it's still interact. I mean, it's all the same stuff that they don't give you a manual that gives you a quick and easy how to be a YouTuber.
No,
Like, you gotta.
absolutely, absolutely. And
So
listen,
yeah.
all I've got to say about that is just do what you're doing. Carry on doing what you're doing.
Yep.
I mean, listen, you're putting yourself out there in the world of YouTube. You're going to get people that aren't going to want to watch your videos. They're not going to like
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
It's just part and parcel of what it is. I've got to say, I was real nervous about me doing videos, simply for the fact that I didn't know how I was going to react if I got someone like a negative comment, or a
Yep.
nasty comment or whatever. And I was quite surprised. Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I just
Yeah.
that's the funny thing, because if I'm at work or out
Yep.
of YouTube, I'm quite impatient with things. It's when it comes to driving and stuff like that.
Mhm,
And
mhm. Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I mean, even
absolutely.
if I'm sitting here filming and I'm doing a take, and someone would come along and start the car up outside. Now, people live here, and it's vroom, vroom, vroom. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, like that. And so then I've got to press the stop button, and I've got to wait for them to go, or you get screaming kids. Listen, it's part and parcel of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's frustrating as hell. It's frustrating as hell, but
It
that's how it goes.
absolutely.
You
Oh
just
my.
got to, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I just
I wish
for
I
the most
could be
part,
on your I wish I could be that way on with like you, and just because I seem to be so tightly wound 24/7, and I'd love just to be like, whatever, and just
No, no,
move
no,
on.
don't get
Yeah,
me wrong.
again.
Don't get me wrong. If I'm filming and I've spent about 20 minutes saying the same thing over and over again, and I
Yeah.
get tongue tied or something to come up, because
Oh,
I don't work on script. I try and say it how it
yeah.
is,
Yep.
and
Yep. Yep.
I finally get that and I think, yes, this is going to be a good one, Vroom, 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 or something like that. Or, "Meh." I'm like, oh, for God, it's not for God's sake, but it's
Yeah.
something along
Oh
those
yeah.
lines. But
Oh.
but yeah, listen, it is what it is. You can't please everybody, and the thing is, with this day and age, you try and please everybody, you end up pleasing no one. So
No,
just do
no.
the things that you enjoy doing, and there's people that are going to like it, and they're the people you got to cater for. If they don't like doing what you're doing, don't jog on, walk off, go somewhere else. You know, don't But there you are.
No.
Anyway, I've got 2 questions left for you.
Yes.
What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
Oh, jeez. You know what? I just can't think of anything else that I used to be a cigarette smoker. I quit like 7 years ago. If I hadn't quit, none of this would be here, because there's no way I'd be able to afford it. And who knows, maybe I wouldn't even be alive right now with, but
well, yeah, true.
Things like this, I think being a collector, it just is an extension of myself. It's kind of like, if you like this, hopefully you kind of like this, know? I don't take myself seriously at all. I think if I did, I don't think I'd be doing this whatsoever. Where I started to where I am now, it's been such a wild ride. I don't think, for the most part, I'd give any of it up. I can't believe what I've done on this channel over 5+ years. Some of the people I've had on the channel over the past 5+ years. And it just, I don't know. It feels like if I don't do this YouTube and this is just, I know that my kids will have to fight over this eventually. Who's taking what? Who's taking my hot toys? Who's taking my helmets? But it just, again, it's, for me, this is just kind of it's a safety net, and it's, I don't know what it is. Like I said, like I could have the absolute worst day, and I sit here for 5 minutes, and I can just instantly just feel just the garbage just rolling away, and just going, this is what it needs to be. This was a great time in my life, being a kid, having an imagination, not having to worry about where the next mortgage payment's coming from, or oh damn, my car broke down at the side of the road, or whatever. Like, you didn't have adult responsibilities back then. So I can pretend I'm a 50-year-old guy eating my cereal, my sugary cereal, watching a DVD of cartoons, because I can't stand most of the garbage that's on TV nowadays. And you know what? I'm a vanilla poser. I can't pose a figure to save my life, but I'm starting to get there. So now, I'll pull one down, watch something, and I'm still, you know what? And hopefully,
what's it like for you then when you find a figure that you've been craving for a while? You find a figure, you finally get him open and release him and stuff like that. I mean, how good a feeling is that?
Oh, it's so quickly. So when I first got started with YouTube, the whole bit, I wasn't opening a thing. I'm like, no, I'm not opening anything. None of my Batman stuff. So I had that big Batman, the animated series, that re-released Batmobile that lit up and whatever. I had the Bat wing hanging up on my wall. And so after listening to Mike on his YouTube channel for so long, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll let him breathe. I'm going to crack one figure open and see how that feels. So I grab my Batman, open him up, and I'm like giving him a smell and the whole, I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome. Well, what do I not know? I don't know that you should check the joints to make sure they haven't seized up on the figure. So what do? I want to get him in the Batmobile just to take a picture, and I snap his leg clean off within 5 seconds of opening the figure. I nearly puked. I turned a shade of green. My family was looking at me going, are you okay? And I'm just like, why did I open? Oh my God, what? So, and then now I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can see both sides. Black Series, G.I. Joe, I would rather open them if they're not on a card back, because I can appreciate the artwork that are on the cards. That just makes those figures even better, just looking at the cards, right? So
And are you a guy that likes to find things in the wild in store, or are you quite happy getting them offline?
I will pre-order if need be. I do like to find stuff in the wild, but man, that's just getting to be more and more difficult. Like, I'm
Yeah.
still trying to find Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn. It's the only Obi-Wan figure I have that I'm missing from that
Okay.
subline from the series.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Like, a lot of, like, it's a Walmart exclusive. There is a Walmart. I can walk to Walmart from my house. It's 5 minutes away. And I can tell you right now, there is one Black Series Grogu on the shelf. It's been there for weeks. Never seen any of the other exclusives at my location. I got to drive an hour away to some of the
Wow.
other locations just to be able, and I'll see people on Facebook going, "Oh, we found Bad Batch Season 2 Wrecker at this Walmart." Oh, really? My Walmart has 85 techs on the shelf right now. Didn't get any of the other Bad Batch figures, but got tech.
Wow.
Well, so I had a guy in California find one of the Bad Batch guys, send it out. So luckily, again, through
Yeah.
our extended YouTube family here, which has been brilliant, it's made it easier. But I still like that feeling of going like,
Yeah.
holy crap, I found that on the shelf. Like, I found well, here. So I got Crystar, right?
Okay.
Marvel Legend. I'm like, throwback to the Crystar line in the 80s. I found that. I didn't pre-order him. I just happened to go to GameStop one day and I was like, look, I found something on the shelf. Come home with me. But yeah, generally I usually try to get my pre-orders in so it's out of sight, out of mind. But
Yeah. Fair
yeah,
play. Fair play. Right. Last question then. What does your collection mean to you?
safety for sure. Like I said, it's friends, it's family, it's a blanket, it's you know, we all have for our display. So it is also kind of like puffing out your chest a little bit, being a peacock with your big
Yeah.
feathers and
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
showing, and showing it off
Yeah.
as well. And just to say, hey, because we all don't have, like, we may all have a lot of the same figures, but we all display differently. I
Absolutely.
love looking at everybody else's collections. So yeah, I would say, it's just, oh man, it's just grand. But here, I'll show you lastly though to add in. This was another Grail piece for me that I managed to
Go
work
for it.
out the other
Go for
day,
it.
which will finally complete my Mandalorian Lego. So here, so
Oh.
so I managed. So this is what my sequel Black Series figures afforded me after I got rid of them. I was able to pick up the UCS Razor Crest. This is the
Oh.
the
Wow.
biggest. Yeah. So 6,100 and some odd pieces.
That
I
is
bought it
awesome.
built. I'm actually gonna build it. I'm gonna deconstruct it and actually do the full build myself on it.
Wow.
But yeah. So this is
Yeah. That's pretty
that's my
cool.
my newest and probably one of my last pieces for a little while now. So
That is absolutely awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And I just want to harpen back to when you said about you could go in your room and just sit in your room
yeah,
look, listen, uh, we're all guilty of that. We all do that.
yeah,
I think it's brilliant. I can come in here after like you've had a crap day, just
yeah.
come and look at the stuff and
Yep.
you just
Yep.
lose yourself and you just think, yeah, simpler time, great times. You know, I appreciate the articulation, the paint
Yes.
apps on today's modern figures, but then again, I get such a nostalgia buzz when I look at my vintage Star Wars or the vintage GI Joe figures. So yeah, it's a great thing, and like you say, you should rightly puff your chest out because every collection is personal, and it
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
something to everybody who collects and stuff like that.
Yep.
There's no right way of collecting. There's no wrong way. You feel free to collect whatever you like, how you want to collect.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely awesome, absolutely awesome. Uh, Gord, that has come to the end of the conversation, mate. I've got to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. It's the first
Yeah.
time we've actually properly spoken.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
The hour just goes too damn quick. It really
It
does. It
it
flies by.
does. Yeah. Yeah.
Just one last question: where can
Yeah.
people find you on social media?
Okay. So I'm, of course, YouTube, Papa Gord, the Canadian Santa Claus.
Yeah,
I had Twitter or X, but I'm not on that anymore. Instagram,
yeah.
I think it's Papa Gord underscore CSC Canadian Santa Claus. I think I'm on Threads as
Oh.
well. I had a page on YouTube, but I kind of, that's the kind of the other side of things too, is when you're out on social media,
Yeah,
is you almost need to hire a team to look after that side of things for you, because there's just not enough hours in the day to
No,
sit there and,
absolutely.
yes, this
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
doing right
yeah,
now, and then also
absolutely.
interact with the family plus your job and everything else. So yeah, so Instagram and YouTube are my two go-tos
Well,
for.
what I do then is I'll put the links to the Instagram and the YouTube channel
Yeah,
in the description below to this video. I've got to say, like, I've really thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that has come to the end of the conversation. Get my teeth in. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Always appreciate your support. Thank you so much. This has been Papa
Absolutely.
Gord, and yeah, cheers. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Later, eh?